We're live. My guest today is Yair Cleper. He is the CEO and co-founder of Lava Network. It's the Uber for blockchain data. In today's conversation, we'll discuss why RPCs are so important to crypto and why they're also a central choke point for Web3. We'll talk about an RPC marketplace where data providers and node runners can provide their RPC nodes to users. We'll talk about how they incentivize quality of service for node runners, and we'll talk about how Lava achieves all this as a Cosmos chain. I'm also dying to find out why he thinks decentralization is a tool, not the goal. So before we get started, make sure to hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and subscribe to get notified when I go live every week. And remember that none of what we discuss here on the Interrupt is investment advice. And if you like this podcast, you should consider staking with us. We're validating on Evmos, Quicksilver, Osmosis, and Juno. Just look for Interop in the active set. My guest, Yair, is coming up next, right here on the Interop. Hey, Yair.
Hello. How are you?
That was a bit of a tongue twister. My guest Yair is coming up next, and I sort of said "yets" and sort of like "yets" as in like now in German.
I think before we start, my name is always tricky in every language, right? So I'm always giving one American guy taught me this, and since then always the same. My name is better pronounced when you say "yeah" and "ear." Yair.
Yeah. Well, how are you doing? How's everything going since I last saw you at Nebula Summit?
Is it August? Like I feel so much work, I don't know. Like some people told me vacation, summertime, but there's a lot of things happening. Exciting things. Been into crypto with Lava over a year, and that's insane. Feels like a few years.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, time passes in crypto super fast, and certainly summers pass even faster, and that's the case now. I don't know if you've had some time to take vacation, but we've been just like plugging through all summer, and I just didn't even see the summer go by.
Don't be wrong. I'm a great believer of work-life balance.
Yeah,
a great parody of that in Israel. I wish it would be translated because it's like you're laughing your guts out, basically. So I'm taking some time, recharge, but also know how to shift gears when the time is right.
Yeah, of course. So I want to start a little bit with your background. Like you have a really interesting past, I feel, because before getting into crypto, you've had several companies and that had nothing to do with crypto. I think you were doing like an e-commerce sort of company before. So yeah, how did you arrive at building Lava, which is I think very different from your past?
Yeah, so I'm a computer engineer, and I was in a special program in the army in Israel. And all my life, I was surrounded by techie things. I was building things, I was developing. I started my first startup when I was 21, and that was in kind of a tool to build websites on Flash 2009. And we sold the startup 3 years later, and I rolled out to the next venture, which was fintech. Afterwards, I had the augmented reality, business intelligence, and obviously supermarkets. And in every startup, usually I try to build the first POC, the first technology, the first to understand what's the right stack, and always curious about technology, especially because what I study. But I was all the time next to Web3, next to crypto, next to the white paper of Bitcoin, next to Vitalik as an intern in eToro 2014, speaking one-on-one with him, but all the time missing that. ICOs, also in Israel, we had a couple of great success there.
Yeah, of course.
And 2 years ago, I was phasing out from my last venture. 6 years as a solo founder. Just a disclaimer: never suggested to anyone. But we reached an amazing thing with checkout. It was not really an e-commerce, but it was a physical checkout for supermarkets. So slow pacing cycles, long time to deploy. And I just woke up exactly 2 years ago, July, August, talking with my co-founder, which is my best friend, about MEV, DEX arbitrage, a lot of opportunities in crypto. And me as the first Bitcoin and Ethereum buying a year earlier, so 2020, I felt, okay, there is something happening here. There is something big that I was kind of ignoring in the last few years. And yeah, we dive right into, I started looking in this YouTube video channel. It's called Finematics. I could not stop. I met my friend from Danny Adlin from Curve, told me about how they ended up selling to PayPal and how there is so much innovation on one hand, but use cases that are waiting to explode on the other hand. So my first crypto conference was in Solana Breakpoint 2021. It's a
Wow.
good started.
That seems so like yesterday.
Yesterday, and yet the all-time high of the industry. Like,
Yeah,
it's
of course. Yeah.
interesting point. We met crazy people there, from Cosmos people to Do Kwon to all the biggest projects and players, and got the gist of what we want to build and how we started Lava.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly the conference when I decided that I would focus on launching a fund. So yeah, I've had sort of a similar trajectory since that conference. Very cool. Yeah. So I mean, you guys are now a team of like, I think over 30 people
Almost
building
40.
almost 40 building Lava, which is like really impressive. Like how do you scale so fast? And what's the how many engineers do you have, like compared to like business people or maybe marketing, or what's the breakdown?
So both me and Gil, my co-founder, we are super techy. We were building initiative before Gil was selling his cybersecurity companies in 2017. He's one of the most brilliant reverse engineer I ever worked with. And obviously, we have a very good network. People see our successes in the past. People want to work, I think, with entrepreneurs that bringing new vision. And we were really humble and overwhelmed also by the scale. If you remember last year when we started, it was still the shifting into the bear market, and people were still earning a lot. And we always say that the people we're working with, ex-cybersecurity engineers, top researchers, cryptographers, they're like a soccer player. They want a big contract. They like to work around the clock and dedicate themselves to a vision, but it's very hard to bring them. And I think what we were able to crack is, first of all, make them believe in the vision. We surround ourselves from the get-go with amazing partners, amazing VCs, angels, OGs that started helping us to spread the word. Well, what is it to build an upchain, an L1? What is it to build a crypto project? And once we identify this gap, I think, first of all, recruiting the engineers, recruiting those super talented people was helping us, while we made sure that they understand the vision. They understand where we can be. They see the huge company, the other centralized provider, the other crypto project that did 10,000x a year. And they understand that the future belongs here. Community-led protocol, exactly something that we build in Lava. So I think it took us 6 months to get to 30 people and almost 26 engineers. We scaled afterwards, obviously beefed up the marketing, the project, the business departments. And I think we have we're creating a family. That's another goal. It's another aspect that I'm always saying while we are in the hiring process. You stay with us, you stay with the people, with your colleagues in Lava, more than you spending time with the family. Unfortunately, we all workaholic, and this is why we want to have the family vibes. This is why we dedicated a lot of our time last year to build the community around this thing called Lava.
Great, it's super cool, and I can't wait to go to Tel Aviv and go meet that big family. So let's talk a little bit about what is the problem you guys are solving here, because I think it's a really interesting problem. I actually spent a little bit of time researching this problem like 2 or 3 years ago. I was doing some consulting work with like a node runner, and it's something that I encountered back then, which I didn't realize was the case, was that a lot of blockchain protocols, like DeFi protocols and stuff, they're running nodes and they're running infrastructure. Now, this was for Ethereum. It's a little bit different in Cosmos, but I realized that a lot of teams, they were running all the APIs and everything for their front end. And I was like, well, this is kind of weird, right? Like, I mean, you'd want this to be decentralized. And this is where I think like protocols like the Graph tried to solve this problem. Now, Lava is a little bit different because, your first product is addressing the RPC, the issue with RPCs, which we'll talk about in a sec. But it also extends to more generalized blockchain data, like APIs. So can you describe here, like what is the core problem with RPCs, and why is it such an important point of the blockchain stack?
So it's amazing, but many people in the industry, they heard about RPC, but they don't really understand how important is RPC. Like, RPC is the basic way that all apps talk with the blockchain. Every transaction, every message, every piece of data sent and received, it's all enabled through a protocol called RPC, Remote Procedure Call. And there is so much useful data that any ecosystem can get from that. How many projects are building on a chain, how many users, and stuff like that. So once you need to understand that every developer, every project coming to an ecosystem, they start working with this RPC. So RPC today, obviously the first option is to run your own node, right? You can run your own node, get access, read-write transaction from the blockchain, and then you don't need anyone. But as Moxie said, nobody today wanted to run their own computer. Nobody today want to run their own nodes. So obviously, once there was such a growth, so much demand for different ecosystem, and we all believe in the multi-chain, those centralized providers appeared, and those companies really reduced the barrier to entry for everyone who wanted to get data, read-write from the blockchain. And they said something simple: we're going to run the nodes for you. Instead of you needed to run the node, get access, accept the consensus of every chain, we're going to run it to you. We're going to run the RPC nodes for you, and we'll do it as a middleman. And this is one of the gaps that for us at the beginning was super surprising. Like, we came to crypto to develop a lot of amazing apps, but understanding the great values that there is in Web3. And we felt that there is a violation, a core violation of all the values of Web3. Because if you trust a middleman, you have a single point of failure. When one of the provider is down, suddenly you don't see your account balance in your wallet. That's using those centralized providers to get the data from the blockchain. You start hearing about things like Tornado Cash, censorship. You see this, this problem of data accuracy. How do you know the data is from the blockchain? Who proves you that? Maybe this spot price is not even up to date. There's been a lot of DNS hijacking over the last year. of people really manipulating the data, not being irresponsible to the data up to date. It's even manipulating the data, and obviously the privacy. We've seen that MetaMask is collecting the information, and as all Web2 companies, many times they're selling that to third parties. So this is the first thing we wanted to address. How we build a standard, how we build a community-led protocol, a real public good that everyone can use and benefit. And this is when we realized that creating Lava is the solution for that.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe the problem. Is that when you're communicating, I mean, RPC is not really the thing you want. I mean, what you want is access to the node, right? So if you're initiating a transaction with a MetaMask wallet or a Kepler wallet, like, you want access to the node. RPC is the protocol through which the node and the wallet communicates. Wallet sends the transactions through the node through RPC. If you want to run your own, so the thing is with blockchains, the vision was always, I think, for a lot of protocols, the idea was always, okay, people will run their own nodes. It's going to be trivial to run their own nodes. And I think, like, with Cosmos, when Cosmos first launched, there were some professional validators, but everybody was just kind of figuring things out, right? So people were professionalizing. But I think over time, as blockchain ecosystems grow, the infrastructure providers tend to specialize, and they specialize because it reduces costs, it reduces, it improves quality of service, and those are the node providers that tend to gain the most delegators, for instance. So this is the case in staking, for instance, right? But this is the same for node providers and RPC. Like, you don't want to run your own node. I mean, that takes a lot of time. You want to make sure that that node will stay up and everything. And so it was like a natural progression that RPCs would also specialize and become sort of this thing that is provided by other companies. And we know of companies like Alchemy and Infura and Ethereum that do a lot of RPC providing. In Cosmos, it's a little bit different, though, because in Cosmos, we don't really have those companies, right? We don't have an Alchemy in Cosmos, as far as I know. And typically, I think what happens is validators will run RPCs, and foundations will. I've heard foundations like the Interchain Foundation or the Evmos Foundation or any blockchain foundation will give a grant to or pay our validators who know how to run infrastructure to run their RPC nodes. Is that an accurate representation of how RPCs are delivered in Cosmos?
So I liked what you said. I will address something you mentioned at the beginning, the Uber for RPC. And obviously, one thing that is a misconception now when we're speaking with a lot of ecosystem, we see validators that also running RPC. And it should be very clear that the same validator node that is being run should not be the same RPC node, right? To make sure.
I mean, validator infrastructure providers.
Exactly. Yeah. But what was kind of hinted from what you said is that validators anyway running validator nodes, so they're going to do the RPC. But this is a common misconception that once we go to ecosystem, we say, by the way, is it the same node, RPC node, and the validator node that they run? And we see that a lot of ecosystems don't have these insights. So that's one of the misconceptions. But think about that there's a lot of RPC providers that have a spare capacity and monetize their resources much better if there's going to be a marketplace for that. So today, we can agree that it's not allocated efficiently, not regionally, not geolocation efficiently. The rewards are not distributed efficiently. And we think that if we incentivize more nodes and aggregate all the node service RPC into one protocol that pairs the needs from the dApps and the providers, that's going to create a real public good. So imagine that you have a global Uber for RPC. If you want to request a taxi in the Uber app, right, is like sending an RPC request to Lava. So the Uber app will just look at a few things, who is the Uber driver that's available, who is the closest to you, geolocation, region-wise, and who has the best rating according to what you need, right? Because if you're doing real quickly swapping, trading, and you need honesty of the data, you can just create a flag about that. And you are willing to pay more to ensure that the data is accurate, right? So the same way that the Lava protocol pairs application with the best node available. So every node that gets the RPC responses is constantly being scored. Speed, uptime, accuracy. And as more providers that are pairing there, so the protocol is super available, right? If one provider is down, automatically reverting to another provider. You know that the nodes are close by according to your geolocation. And obviously, you can continue and come back to the same node provider that scored highly before. And one of the good examples that we used about that RPC is like a Web3 postman, right? He's running across the city. Every transaction, every message he delivery, every piece of user data is sent or retrieved from the blockchain using this RPC call. And think about Lava as this postman.
Okay, yeah. Lava, the blockchain postman. I like it. Another great analogy, aside from the Uber for blockchain data. Let's take a step back here and just look at the Lava network. So Lava is a Cosmos chain. It has its own validators. So we know like those are network participants, and then it has a network of node runners that may be running nodes on different chains. So we know that. Can you expand a little bit on like,
of course,
these different participants, and might those node runners also be running infrastructure for Lava, as in like validating for Lava?
Definitely. So we've seen a lot of amazing projects in the past. You mentioned the Graph, the other protocols that try to do something similar, and we try to learn where was their drawbacks. And so in Lava, we try to keep it simple approach. We have providers, we have consumers, dApps, and we have validators. None of those three has to overlap the other. Validator can run only do validating to Lava. Make sure, keep the honesty of the chain. Make sure that if there is a dispute or conflict detection, they know how to solve it. They know how to score the different providers. Providers should run at least a full node in any other dedicated chain. So for example, I'm running Arbitrum chain. Everyone who needs Arbitrum data automatically will be paired to you. And I can support as many nodes as I want as a provider. Again, I don't need to be a validator. I don't need to be a provider. That's two separate entities. And the last one is a consumer. We are flexible in Lava, and that's one of the core values we're bringing. So Lava is actually divided into a few different categories when coming to consumers. We have a pairing, we have the quality management or quality of scoring, the insights, and the settlement for the RPC. So if you want to use Lava, if you want to read-write data, you can use whether our gateway or the SDK. Installing the SDK means that directly from the browser, you get access to all Web3. Because remember, once we're going to do the mainnet, it's a public good. Everyone can join and start providing his own spec, his own integration for different L1s, L2s, every ecosystem. This is also why we chose Cosmos and Cosmos SDK Tendermint, because of the flexibility and the proven record track record of scalability for different protocols. The second thing is the pairing. So we at Lava has an algorithm that always pair developers, the consumers, with the best node that is available. Constantly, we're looking at parameters such as uptime, sync, latency, geolocation, and rating. Once this pairing has been made, think that the dApp has now a list of different providers that they are constantly speaking with him peer-to-peer. So no over latency is being caused here. And I think that it's important to mention one of the key novelties here, quality control. Every client on Lava is actually scoring constantly the provider for the session of the data that was transmitted. So over time, those scores influence like which provider you as a consumer will be paired in the future. And this quarter, we also introducing that a clustering to pair consumer together who like similar providers, kind of an analogies or profiling the same different providers. The third point is about what we call analytics, insights. So, RPC, as you said, is the fundamental communication protocol for every developer in Web3. And look how much data or metadata they ecosystem are missing today because they don't know what's going on there. Not in the public RPC, not what's going on with every provider in the chain. You spoke about Cosmos, how fragmented is the ecosystem and how so many different providers they have. But think if you have one protocol that is kind of a one shared ledger with equal access for every developer, and obviously the most innovative product wins. So Lava lets you see where users in an ecosystem making relay requests from, which geolocation, what are they building, what kind of APIs call or RPC they are looking for, and how many end user finally a chain has. Think about this insight. The last thing about Lava is obviously the settlement layer. If I'm today a centralized provider, at the end of the month, I need to run after each and every one of my user, my dApps, while in Lava, we present a settlement layer. It's every single provider has the opportunity to earn the rewards only by being listed on Lava. It takes 5 minutes, listing yourself, and you getting the rewards for offering a high quality service. No need anymore to start running after the end user. They have subscription fees for Lava, and Lava is taking care as a protocol for giving all the rewards and settlement at the end of the month. And that's why I think at the end of the day, an average RPC provider or community provider, super user of specific ecosystem, have much better chance to play against a large provider. We give the power to reach more developer just by being good in what you do in your existing and leveraging your existing infrastructure. So imagine a developer that's running nodes on Evmos from India can list his existing infrastructure, his existing node on Lava, and start receiving from $200 up to $2,000 a month just for that. I hope it's kind of makes sense.
No, that's clear. I mean, I'm really looking forward to see when Lava launches, all of this playing out in real time, and how much money people are actually making from running infrastructure versus like their server costs. Because I mean, I think there are examples.
Sorry? Maybe, by the way, we're already live on testnet.
Yeah, of course. But like
test and more than 200 providers with more than 1,500 validators already on the chain.
Yeah, I mean, like, what I meant was like when there's like lots of mainnet chains on on Lava that are using this infrastructure. The thing, like, so if you look at Uber, for example, Uber, I think when it started back in like 2010, there was very little demand for it, and it was seen as sort of premium service. You would pay a little bit more, or I think than a taxi, and drivers were making money, right? And then over time, Uber has become a commodity. A driver is more of a commodity, I guess. Drivers are driving with many different apps. They're not really making money. I mean, they're making like very little money. So I wonder if over time, like this may also happen for node providers, and then then in that case, node providers would have to tend towards specialization. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the market sort of like evolves.
But
Yeah.
you touch a very very interesting and important point. Like today, RPC is a commodity. It's it's clear. However, because it's a commodity and because we're in a bear market, you see quotes between dApps and providers like crazy. Everyone wants to win, so the quotes are reducing, and it doesn't make sense today. So the competition today is on the price. We want to take this, hold the providers accountable, and bring the competition to the quality of service. But if we think about Uber, how they started, think about all of these different cities that today they don't have any insight about what's going on in their core layer. They cannot show you much better engagement of any user in the community. And think about this ecosystem, what we're bringing to them. Those municipalities, we're giving them the platform to kind of bring the power back to them, because public RPC, that's the first stop of every developer, right? And if we improve this user experience and we make the RPC reliable on the public RPC, dApps will enjoy a resilient chain, and they don't need to start looking for different endpoints and alternative endpoints. So we're coming to every municipality like that and telling them, look, you have the incentivized public RPC. It's a platform that can bring the hundreds of providers that are already there. It makes sure that the dApps don't even think, oh, which provider I should make if they're coming from a different chain, and kind of standardize the way RPC and APIs today are being made. So yeah, that's kind of how we look in the same analogy to Uber.
Interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the different components here. I want to talk about the SDK, but first I want to understand how you guys are doing the QRS stuff, right? So understanding whether or not a node is withholding data, the uptime, and one thing I'm particularly kind of like curious about is like, how do you ensure that a node is in a particular geography? So like all that quality of service insurance, how does Lava achieve that, and like what are some ways that you guys are innovating on the quality of service aspect?
Perfect. So when a node provider signing up on Lava, it said it's takes 5 minutes up to maximum of 30 minutes, and we're constantly improving that. But they first listing their staking actually the Lava token in a specific geolocation. So this is how we hold them accountable in this specific geolocation to provide the data.
Sorry, how does that work exactly? So like they're staking in a geolocation.
Yeah, they're staking Lava in a specific geolocation. You are
okay.
That's the information that we collecting.
Okay.
And
so they're staking with a validator that has its node in a specific location.
No, they don't have to stake with a validator. There is a Docker.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. We basically, I can put the docs afterwards.
Sure.
As a link, but I'm saying that This pairing is like once a provider is being paired to a user, this is being done the same way that centralized provider working today. It's a peer-to-peer
Okay.
protocol. And so imagine that Lava is the SDK bringing a fleet of node provider, and the DApp is actually connected to this fleet of nodes. So each time, obviously, we're starting a session. We call it the epic. And this session is 15 minutes. And every 15 minutes, we make sure that the session is live. And obviously, we collecting all the different parameters from there. So you think about what's the latency, how's the uptime, sync, and the session could be extended, obviously, after the 15 minutes for as much time and data that those player needs. And at the end of the session, once the DApp finished the transaction, he's signing over the transaction, giving it back to the provider. The provider obviously automatically sending it to the validator in order to receive the rewards at the end of the month. And this is one of the key innovation here, and we call it the subscription fees, because it's not by session. It's kind of we're bringing the SaaS into the RPC API worlds. So think about like a subscription packages for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year that dictates how much, what's the amount of relays, compute units, the request per seconds that we give to that every dApps can use. And this settlement layer that I mentioned before is taking care of organizing all the rewards for each and every provider and providing the rewards at the end of the month. Payment is actually at the end of the month. That's how, on the one hand, we're holding the provider accountable for the performance and the service of the data. Today, if one provider is like down, what usually dApps are doing is implementing a multi-vendor policy. So they contacting or contracting several node providers. And in addition to that, they're doing a load balancer, backup, disaster recovery, and I can continue with so many policies like that. So Lava is taking the burden of dApps that needs to do that. And when I mentioned before that we are live for already a few months, although it's still the testnet, not the mainnet, we see a decrease of 50% the amount of dApps need to pay on infrastructure, because now they can take their existing infrastructure, the existing resources, and don't spend them on implementing the different backing up, load balancing, and stuff like that. They don't need to contract many different providers. They use the Lava SDK or gateway, and they get access to all these providers while we're taking the burden of RPC off of their hands.
Okay, so I see what you're saying here. So when you're a user and you access Lava, it is giving you access to a list of RPC providers that have sort of staked, right? They've identified their node to be like in a specific geolocation. That information
to increase the latency, obviously.
Right. So the test there on the latency is, so like if my node is in the US and I sign up on Lava and I say like I'm actually in Europe, well, I'm not going to be able to compete with all of the nodes that are actually based here in France at OVH or Hetzner or whatever, because my node's over in the US and like that latency is going to be too high, and therefore like I'll be pushed down to the bottom of the stack there. So you're incentivized as a node to actually be in the geolocation that you are.
We incentivize a node to give the best performance they can. And what you said, by the way, is very interesting, because if suddenly there is a NFT drop, there is a mainnet airdrop in some rural location, so it's going to attract, by supply and demand, going to attract node provider to come up with infrastructure there, because and they can do it in few seconds. So a marketplace, dynamic pricing and stuff like that is just the tip of what we can do with such a global standard.
And with regards to freshness and accuracy, what's the way that you guys are checking for accuracy of block data?
Yeah, so today we use a few algorithms to make sure that the data is accurate. So we are starting from sampling every few transaction, the same request that being sent to a specific provider, we're sending it to a couple of providers. So we make sure that the quality and the accuracy of the data between the different requests, or the same request, and the different providers. The provider doesn't know that he's being sampled, he's been randomly picked to use that. And on, we increasing the scoring of every provider, right? And this is our tool, this is our technique to maintain the freshness and obviously availability of the data. So
interesting.
We look at different zero knowledge proofs and other authentication methods in order to improve all the time the accuracy of the data. But that's how we start.
Cool. So let's talk about the SDK a little bit more. So the SDK, as far as I understand, is like if you're an application, if you're building a web app, like you're building some dApp, the SDK is going to sit in the dApp. So basically, the user is loading up the SDK. And what's really interesting here is that the user is getting matched to an infrastructure provider, essentially, as far as I understand, in their browser, right? Like, I mean, this peer-to-peer matching is happening locally. And so as a user, I'm going up to an app, that app is connecting to Lava and determining on the spot what is the RPC or data provider that I should be matched with based on all these parameters. How does, can you talk a little bit more about how that works?
Yeah, no, that's you describe it perfectly well. Imagine, and that's what we've been asked always at the beginning, like, is Lava fast enough? Cosmos is not sure.
But wait, doesn't this mean that you also need, like, Lava also needs its own RPC and API? I mean, at some point there has to be some API, right? Like, are you also decentralizing the access to the Lava network?
No. Let me, I understood where you take your thought, but so Lava doesn't see the data. That's how we can maintain full privacy. And we care about the only data that we're processing is the pairing and scoring data. Okay, so that's how we can make sure that the provider are held accountable for what they bring. They being scored for the service, and the apps get all the values of Web3 straight from the browser. And that's why we build Lava as a lazy blockchain. The speed isn't so crucial. The only crucial thing is to make sure that they getting paired from the browser to the best, closest region, the best performance provider in their geolocation. So that's one very simple thing, right? But very crucial to understand how Lava is not a middle tier, is not in the middle.
I think I get that Lava is not in the middle. Yeah, but I mean, you still have to connect to Lava. Like, there's still that point where you're connecting to like a Lava server, and Lava is doing this matching.
No, the SDK is an open source.
Yeah.
So basically, holding in every region the exact list of providers that are available, that their bargain, right, is available in the same region. So when you think about, I'm a dApp, I'm in England right now. I'm in UK, and I want to get access to a Polygon node, right? So we know at every minute of time um, to bring those top providers into your SDK, into the web browser, so you maintain the connection. Lava doesn't need to be in this flow. And after a successful transaction, when the consumer sign the transaction, in their own time, basically until the end of the month when collecting the payday, the paycheck day, that's the only time that they need to contact again Lava, the validators, in order to receive the reward.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's super clear. Let's talk about this this idea of like incentivized public RPC. You gave a talk at Neighborhood Summit about this, and you have a partnership with Axelar and with Evmos to provide public RPCs. Yeah, what's this idea of an incentivized public RPC, and what's this partnership you have?
Definitely. So I think we mentioned at the beginning, we're super excited about Axelar and Evmos. There are many more other partnerships coming up, but Lava has a new vision for the public RPC. Let's say I'm a developer. I want to build on top of Axelar, so I can run an Axelar node. I can use one of the centralized provider, or I can use the public RPC. But as I mentioned before, public RPC is the backyard of every ecosystem, and we want to bring back the insight and the power to this ecosystem. So we came up with the first product of Lava, and this is an incentivized public RPC. We believe that the core contributor, the tech user, the super users of every ecosystem are techie. So they're running already a node. They're running a node for their own usage. But we believe that if they can list the node on the incentivized public RPC, they can be monetized. They can get monetization from idle infrastructure that in idle time they don't use. So for ecosystem, there are a couple of values that Lava brings in terms of this IPRPC. We drastically improve the user experience. If today it's a rate limit or stuff like that, when you bring more and more provider, obviously you increase the resiliency and alternate to alternative endpoints at the end of the day. You reduce wasted spend. Think that every ecosystem will have a dashboard to monitor all the node provider in a community, and the ecosystem can track the quality of service that being and continue incentivizing that without wasting spend, without need to spend their own resources on running nodes for the ecosystem. Think about a easy one-click distribution of payments at the end of the month. We see that you mentioned especially in Cosmos, we see a lot of validators also running nodes. And to claim the payments at the end of the month, there's a lot of back and forth. Think that everything is on chain, and Lava provides this settlement layer to pay all the provider using a smart contract. But this time it's based on the actual quality of service that we elaborated before. On top of that, we bring also the 200 provider that already signing up to Lava. And think about new ecosystem that has created their EVM, the non-EVM. We can bring those providers in order to serve and join the chain, creating much more engagement, grow the community like that. So all the Web3 ideas to increase decentralization is from the node level. This is what we think is a game changer for public RPC by our new product that we call it incentivized public RPC. This is the standard we try to push for every ecosystem right now.
And can you talk a little bit about the specifics of, like I think with Evmos, you guys have a grant program, or you were selected from by this grants program to build this out. What does that mean really, and like what's the roadmap for launching on Evmos?
So Evmos, Axelar, we're gonna share the timeline very soon. So it should be live already during September, October. And what we're planning there is this allocation of different rewards to list on the public RPC. So once you're listing the rewards, every node that being served is eligible to receive this reward. So it can start from a small, any developer that's running 1-2 nodes, up to medium and even big companies that can be listed on Lava on this IPRPC to receive the payments at the end of the month. But I think the idea here is like much broader, because we want to be the RPC as a public good, right? So we want to be the number one provider on Cosmos. Everyone looking for RPC, first of all, coming to Lava, making sure that they know they will get the quality of service they're paying for. We want to help Cosmos improve their product marketing, but by giving better insights to every ecosystem that's starting to work with us. This is how we start to work with Axelar and Evmos.
Cool. Well, looking forward to that. So who pay, like at the end of the day, who pays for Lava? I mean, is it the user that's paying for Lava and some sort of a transaction fee when they're interacting with Web3, or are the protocols paying, subsidizing the access to the node? What's the economics look like?
So obviously, we think that as more vibrant and more activity you can see you show in ecosystem, the more successful it will become. So those ecosystem and those we submitting grant proposal, governance proposal, and grants, and every ecosystem decides how much incentive they want to list for the usage. So obviously, public RPC is a free tool, right? It's a free access to every ecosystem, and what we're trying to bring is a better product. It's a better public RPC for the devs that's starting to build on top of that. So the ecosystem themselves can decide how much rewards they want in order to distribute among the providers. Every DApp will enjoy, at the end of the day, a better scaling solution. And once they want to go to the next level, to a premium level, they can buy more subscriptions directly from Lava. And that's the idea in general. We're working on the exact fees that will be left on the subscription, on the Lava subscription fees and packages. But constantly what we see from ecosystem, it's they're looking at bringing more activity to that. Not staying only on the RPC, but taking it to also APIs. Think that, and that's the example we gave in Nebular. Think that wallet APIs to Kepler. Think about NFT indexing APIs. There's some developers on Evmos that already developed them in one part of the globe, but they can list those APIs, and by making that, starting to receive royalties from everyone who's using that. Imagine Lava as the IP APIs, a board that every developer can list his own, the API that already been developed, and make it bring activity to the chain by doing that. Because obviously, after they develop something for internal use and listed that, and they receive rewards at the end of the month, they're going to go and tell everyone on crypto Twitter, or we say today crypto X. And we believe that this will create much more engagement for every ecosystem.
So like, let's talk about these APIs for a little bit, because it seems to me like as Lava moves forward in its vision, so starting with RPCs and then APIs, at some point, like you can start providing, say, pricing data or this sort of thing. Like Lava can become more like Oracle-like. What's your vision for how that might? Is that like a terrain in which you want to expand, or is like the API and RPC use case really what you want to stick to?
So towards the mainnet by the end of the year, we have a big vision, and that's keep evolving all the time. Think that you have a standard starting from RPC. Many provide hundreds and thousands of different providers in different ecosystems. Validators on Lava also that's validating on other places. And you have a one source of truth per ecosystem. So as a dev, once I pay one-time subscription on Lava, I want to move from building from Polygon to Starkware to any Cosmos chain. I can do it with one click. So devs finally getting the confidence that they have a reliable, resilient infrastructure to access Web3. No more, what's my quote here, what's my quote here. It's going to be balanced by the market supply and demand, by the market powers, right? So that's from the developer part. But at the provider's part, imagine that you have a real source of truth for what's going on in every different L1, L2s, real-time information, and everything is on-chain. So I just gave the gist, and obviously we're going to expose slowly our big plans, but this is exciting. This is super exciting. Lava is an ecosystem, is a community. We see already now different types of project being built on Lava, from dev tools, DevOps tools, obviously running node, running validator, staking. Think about insight to ecosystem, being from basic question to how many developers we have in an ecosystem, up to what's the top trend. Crypto Twitter can say what's the top trend because of the hashtag, right? How you can say in a Cosmos ecosystem what's the trend right now? You basically cannot, right?
Yeah.
And this is only a gist of what will be the huge potential we can do with Lava. We're starting with RPC. That's the entry point. We're going already to APIs, indexing, wallet APIs, NFTs, and we're growing to a big ecosystem that's connecting between all the different layers of Web3.
Yeah, and absolutely, I could see how once you have integrations with things like XLR or some other like ZK IBC, cross ecosystem, cross domain bridging solution, it gets a lot easier to also access data from other ecosystems. So like if you're on a Cosmos chain and you want to access Ethereum data or something like that, you could do that. One of the things I was thinking.
Yeah. Just to add on top of that, or just I feel the need, the urge, as an entrepreneur to put the pin in it. Today, nobody's take financial guarantee for the data. You speak about one side, which is the accessing the data. It's amazing, yeah. But what about the other side? Being accountable for this data. And when you have, obviously, every provider on Lava is receiving data because of the quality of service and because of the stake. So more the stake, more service they're likely to use. And think about you have a fleet of financial guarantees that take accountability over the data, and they feel obliged to bring you the most accurate freshnet available data. What power it can create.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I wanted to understand here, and maybe this is where Axelar comes in. So you guys are running, so people can already use Lava. They can go to the website. They can like log in on the test net, and they have access to something like 25 chains that you guys are providing RPCs for. And some of those chains are Cosmos chains. Many of them are, and others are like Ethereum is on there. Ethereum mainnet, and there's some other EVM chains, I believe. So as what's interesting here, and I'd like to know maybe some of the technical complexities, is that this is an example of Cosmos infrastructure potentially being used by Ethereum applications, and the Ethereum applications don't even need to. I mean, I don't think. I mean, is there any sort of like bridging that needs to happen for that data to be accessible there? Like maybe when they're interacting with the Lava chain or something, or like how easy is it for Ethereum chains to use this?
Super easy. We support any EVM, non-EVM chains. Once we're going to be on mainnet, everyone can provide a spec. Everyone can come up with their own needs, requirements for integration, listed that the government's proposal on Lava, and someone from the community going to quickly build that because they want to be the first to receive the rewards, obviously, if there is a demand. For example, DYDX coming now to Cosmos. MetaMask is coming, MetaMask Snap is actually around the corner. But yeah, so what I want to say, we support the multi-chain, right? We have a clear visibility over the different chains, but you don't need to do bridging in order to use Lava. You as a dev who wants to write retransaction in a specific ecosystem can simply do that by signing up on Lava Gateway or download the SDK. And this is how we keep it very, very simple, right? Because obviously we're working on the UX and UI of every developer onboarding to this chain. And yeah, I think that's kind of summarize answering the question.
Cool. So yeah, what's the roadmap? How can people get started with Lava? Maybe providing some node infrastructure, maybe getting involved in the testnet.
Yeah, so I'm, we have a very vibrant community on Discord. Our Twitter have so much information, and that's something amazing. That is a kudos to the community and marketing team. Every time I'm showing up, in a Lava conference, oh my God, we love the content. We love how technical can be the docs, but how simplified it could be. And I think our Twitter and Discord is a great place to start. We're inviting everyone from running one nodes to developer that just started and want to use a free tier RPC service on 25 chains to start using Lava. Download the SDK. Hundreds of downloads we had only last week. We just forked our last testnet when coming up with super amazing features. Some of them I mentioned today in the call, and also we're hiring. So we continue expanding the team, especially now. We are strengthening the sales. So everyone around sales partnership worked with foundations, different DAOs, L1s, L2s. Please reach out. We're looking for you. And yeah, the roadmap is we're working super strong on the mainnet. It will come by the end of the year. Teaser of a new version of SDK that's gonna make if the first SDK was a game changer, because there's nothing like that in Web3 so far. So the next version of the SDK the performance and usability will be crazy. As I mentioned before, provider can join 5 minutes up to 30 minutes, sign up on Lava. Validators are also invited. And yeah, this is how we create a vibrant community that's going to be a standard for any RPC API in Web3.
Great. Yair, thank you so much for coming on and sharing the vision for Lava. I'm super excited about it. And yeah, can't wait to see it go to mainnet and take over the RPC world in Cosmos and also beyond. So yeah, really enjoyed this conversation, and you're welcome to come back on anytime.
Seb, thank you so much. I'm inviting you to eat our croissant now. It's a Lava croissant.
You want to know something? I think one of the best croissants I've ever had, and I mean, and I've had a lot of croissants, was in Israel. I went to this brunch place and they made this like the massive, like very crunchy, buttery croissant, and it's on like Ben Gideon Street.
I think you live in Paris and you mentioned an Israeli croissant. Okay, I'm done. Thank you. Well, that's what everyone can skip all the discussion, can come up for the last minute. Oh,
yeah,
you should send me this place. I'll mention that.
Yeah, I think I saved it, but I'll send it to you. All right.
No, I tell you, in Israel, we like to take things to the extreme. Everyone is giving great feedbacks about the food. And
food is great. Yeah, I really enjoyed the food in Israel, and that's one of the reasons why I want to go back. Great.
Looking forward to host you there. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Cheers.